is to hit where it hurts, namely the eyes, groin and throat.
Hello, welcome to In Defense of the Traditional Martial Arts, takedown defense in Wing Chun. I'm going to start by saying I don't hate it. I know there's going to be a lot of MMA purists out there saying that'd never work in a cage. I've definitely seen examples of this working inside the cage, this kind of defense. Where I feel like I need to speak out, because I like this creator, I like this creator's approach to Wing Chun, but I feel anyone within the traditional martial arts community needs to call out poor advice when they hear it.
In which case you would be relying on elbow point strikes and throat strikes to deal with that.
And whenever I hear anyone say, I'm going to counter this technique by using illegal techniques, whatever they say after that is going to be nonsense, sorry. But we act like wrestlers inside the cage don't already run the risk of being knocked out, swept, submitted in the cage. You might not be able to do a 6 to 12 elbow, but you could certainly adjust the angle, and we see that all the time. When we think of he's going to try and take me down, so I'm going to elbow the back of his head, try that while he's chaining his attacks together. A good wrestler's always going to be on the move. If your solution is I'm just going to elbow him on the back of the head, good luck with it. When we talk about using illegal blows, we go back to the first UFC events. You could rain down blows to the back of the head. We see wrestlers taking people down, wrestlers like Dan Severn taking people down and then raining those blows. But the difference is in the street, these people initiating the takedown, they too can use these techniques, but they're doing them from a much more advantageous position. If you're saying I'm going to defend against these illegal blows with illegal blows, the person in the better position is going to be the person that successfully implements those blows, which will be the wrestler who is taking you down. When we talk about, I'll knee him on the floor because you're not allowed to do that in MMA, we see in One UFC, you are allowed to do this. And we see people getting kneed in the head, getting up and continuing to fight all the time. Seeing early UFC again, people getting eye poked. We still see it now to an extent. Sometimes people get poked in the eye, the referee doesn't see it, the fight continues. Just because you're not allowed to do those blows, groin strikes being the same, it doesn't mean their fight ending all of the time. They have the potential to end the fight, but so does a right hook. It doesn't mean it's going to end the fight every time you throw that technique. It's just another technique you can use. And again, in the streets, you're both allowed to use those techniques. So if your go-to is, I'm just going to use illegal techniques, I think it's going to end badly for you if you're not backing it up with real authentic skills to counter whoever's coming at you. If we're talking about your superior striking to end a wrestling exchange, again, let's look in the UFC. Let's look at your elite strikers, your Israel Adesanya's, Steve Wonderboy Thompson's, Conor McGregor's. Yeah, nearly all of their takedown defense is keeping at distance or having heavy hips. You only develop heavy hips by wrestling. In terms of Chisao drilling, that is not a way of developing heavy hips. It's going to develop your reactions, but when we move into a grappling exchange, it isn't going to help. I'm sorry, you might think it will, it's not. In Tai Chi we have pushing hands, which I think does develop better skills to an extent to deal with wrestling. But again, when I first started at an MMA gym, I found I could go toe-to-toe with most of the wrestlers in an open area. As soon as it went to wall wrestling, I was at a major disadvantage, even to people much lighter than me, because I just wasn't used to it. If you want to get good at defending something, you need to take part in that thing to understand it. Again, with groundwork, and I'll be fair, the creator does say you are going to need to understand some of this stuff, groundwork wrestling, if you're going to deal with it. That's a much better solution, but it does kind of suggest that you can negate that by using illegal techniques. you're going to need to wrestle to learn how to defend against wrestling. Even if you're going to use a strike as a way of finishing the fight, or strikes, you still need to stay on your feet. As is said in this video, in the street, the last place you want to be is on the floor. So get some ground skills. If I get taken down, I'm going to defend myself to get back up to my feet again. As we do, try to, in MMA. Nobody, or virtually nobody, in the UFC, when they get taken down, wants to remain on the bottom. It just makes sense from cage fighting point of view, or from fighting in the street. Nobody wants to be on the floor, but you need to learn how to deal with being on the floor if you don't want to stay there. With that said, let me know what you have to say about this technique. As I say, link will be in the comments section. Yeah, takedown defense in Wing Chun, or traditional martial arts in general. What do you think? Get in touch. Catch you soon.